Friends, I think if there's one thing that gets us excited about Jesus that came to earth, then it was that he was also human. He also gets tired and he sleeps in the boat, or also gets hungry and go like, oh my goodness, we need to feed these hungry people over here. Also sees the need in prayer when serious things happen, to a degree where he prays to where his sweat becomes like drops of blood. He is also the one that needs to fight temptation, like we saw there in the desert. So we know that we have a Lord that can truly identify with who we are as humans. Jesus, however, also showed us so clearly that he is also God. This is really, really important, and I believe quite a bit under attack in our day and time. People will attack these things. Is he truly the truth? Is he the only door? Is he the only road? And so if they can bring this under attack, then the idea that Jesus is God kind of goes away. Then it's just like any other person, perhaps a little wiser, perhaps a little bit less wise. It doesn't really matter. There were two ideologies in our day and time that I think is greatly attacking this. One is called, this one over here, universalism. Universalism basically says everybody is saved. Perhaps we can say it like this: there are different roads that you can take through life, but in the end, all of these roads end up in the same heaven. So no matter what road you take, road of Buddhism, road of Hinduism, road of Muslim, doesn't matter, all end up in kind of the same heaven. The other ideology that has really attacked this idea, is Jesus truly God, is this one over here called pluralism. And that, I guess we could say, has something to do, there's even bumper stickers of this, I've seen them, and it's coexist. We need to coexist. What is this ideology saying? Very, very close to universalism, but it's basically saying in this life there's not only different roads, but different lanes. Imagine just like a big, highway with several lanes, and you can choose if you want to be in the lane of Buddhism or Hinduism or Christianity or Judaism or Muslim or whatever. In the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, because all of these will bring some form of spiritual fulfillment. It will fulfill you spiritually, and this is actually, I don't really have to care about the guy in the lane next to me. We are all going to wherever we will go, we'll have a fun time there, a great meeting there, a wonderful tour or whatever we are going to do at our destination. So I'm staying in my lane with my truth, you're staying in your lane with your truth. Your road will take you somewhere great, my road will take you somewhere great. I don't need to bug you, you don't need to bug me. Let's just stay in our own lanes. All of these things are actually okay. All these roads leading to heaven, all these different lanes, all of these are okay if Jesus is not God. However, if Jesus is God, then there's only one truth. Only one of these roads, only one of these lanes will work out for you. If Jesus is God, only one door will help you to enter heaven. If Jesus is God, you need to pick well, because there's actually only one road. So Colossians actually addresses this and does it pretty well. Colossians 1 verse 15 says this: He, meaning Jesus, is the image of the invisible God. So in other words, what does Jesus do? Jesus shows us the invisible God. We cannot see God, but Jesus is the one that shows us God. In fact, Jesus is the firstborn over all creation. Jesus is the firstborn. Now that firstborn brings up a metaphor in your heart, right? Probably the metaphor of a family. And if I can take you for just a moment to another place where we find this word firstborn, then it is here in the verse that you've learned from Sunday school times, John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave who? He gave his one and only Son. It was his firstborn, his lastborn, his one and only Son. And so the metaphor that Colossians, Paul, in other words, and John uses for us to help to understand that Jesus is God is this family metaphor. We need to remember God always meets us where we are at. In the ancient world, even today, still family is a big deal. But in the ancient world, this right here, son, more specifically, if this was your one and only son, if this was your firstborn son, this was extremely, extremely important. In fact, I think we can say it like this. In the ancient world, your firstborn son, if that was your, on top of it, your one and only son, you wanted this son to literally duplicate you. I truly think if Paul would write today and he would need to help us to understand this word was not around in the ancient world, but the word clone is around now, I think he would have used the word clone. You see, we raise our children, also including our firstborn sons. We would say, son, stand on your own 2 feet, do your own thing, make your own way in life, you know. You need to be strong, individual, and all of those things. In the ancient world, a firstborn son would absolutely not do that. A firstborn son would ask these questions. How can I say things, do things, so that it is so close to my dad that I duplicate my dad? Who am I? I am not a De Wet. I am Wayne, the son of Nick De Wet. That's who I am. I am the son of my dad. I want to duplicate my dad. Who cares about my last name? You need to care about who my dad is, because I am connected to him and I want to honor him by duplicating him. In fact, we read in Matthew 11 verse 27, no one knows the Son. So no one knows the Son except who knows the Son? The Father. But when Jesus turns that around and he says, no one knows the Father except the Son. So the Son and the Father is constantly connected with one another. You want to know the one, you need to know the other. And listen to this. To those whom the Son chooses to reveal him. So Jesus is saying, if I reveal myself to you, this incredible thing, I come to this earth, I reveal myself to you. Remember, we talked about carriers of grace. Somebody brings this Jesus in whom grace is attached to you. When you see Jesus, you see the invisible God. Jesus reveals the Father to you. In fact, you cannot know God except through Jesus, because nobody knows the Father except the Son. You get to know Jesus. By implication, you get to know the Father. Now, some of you might say, well, Wayne, we don't live in the ancient world anymore. Firstborn sons don't mean that for us anymore. Is there other proof out there that Jesus is truly God? The good news is there absolutely is. Let me ask it to you like this. What would help you to prove to you that Jesus is God? I think all of you are pretty okay with what is presented to us in the Old Testament. That helps us to believe that God is God, that the Father is God, that the Creator is God. The one is, He is the one that, yes, creates. And you go like, wow, if you can create, you must be God. The other one is, God, in the Old Testament, you experience Him as someone who can give life. He's the one who can give life. And then you also think, well, He's also, when all is said and done, and the second coming happens, He's the judge on the throne. You know, He will have the last say. So if He can have the first say, create, if He can recreate, bring life out of death, and if He is the one that has the last say, He's the judge, that will prove to me that that one is God. That's why I believe that the Father is God. He creates, gives life, He's the judge. Let's see if we go to Jesus. This is what we read in John chapter 5. We're going to start with life and judge, and then we're going to end with creation. So life, judge, creation. Do these also fit Jesus? Can he give life? Will he also judge? Was he there with creation or not? So we're going to leave creation for the last one. Here we go. John chapter 5. Listen to what Jesus says, friends. He says in verse 21, just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life. Listen carefully. Even so, the Son gives life, and this is the important one, to whom he is pleased to give it. You know, some people will say, well, Jesus prayed for people to be raised from the dead. He prayed that Lazarus will be raised from the dead, and then he was raised from the dead. Jesus says, yes, I am praying, but I'm praying for your sake, so that you can clearly see my connection with the Father. However, I can give life to whom I please to give it. So Jesus is helping us to see, I have life in myself. And of course you see it the clearest at the crucifixion, when he dies and gives life to himself. And then verse 22, this is speaking about the judgment. Will Jesus also judge? Look at this, verse 22. Moreover, the Father judges no one. Wow. But has entrusted all judgment to the Son. Verse 23, that all may honor the Son, just as they honor the Father. You honor the Father as who? As God. And Jesus says, I will judge too, because the Father gives that to me, and so I will also judge, and it is so that you can honor me as you honor the Father. In fact, this is what he ends with. He says, he who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father, because he's the one who sent him. Jesus says, if you want to honor the Father, you have to honor me. So, does Jesus have life in himself? Yes. Does Jesus judge like God? Yes. Does Jesus create? And now we're back into Colossians. You've got to enjoy this, Colossians 1:16. Listen carefully. For by him, who's the him now? Of course, Jesus. By him, all things were created. Things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or powers or rulers or authorities, all things were created by him and for him. Does Jesus also create? Oh, he absolutely does. What does he create? He creates all things. He creates, this is mind-blowing if you don't miss this. He doesn't only create what's visible, friends, he creates what's invisible. He creates what's invisible. What would that be? That would be, he's the one that actually creates hope. We talked about that in a previous message. You know, if our hope is attached to things in this world, and things in this world fall apart, our favorite political leader that we put our hope in to bring a better future for us, our money, our house, and then it burns down and it's suddenly not there, our job, and then we lose our job and that's suddenly not there, a person that we love and that person passes away, we lose them, you know, then we lose hope. We need to understand that Jesus created also the invisible. Jesus created hope. And so if we are attached to Jesus, then he creates a kind of hope in us that the visible cannot steal away from us. If we tap into the invisible joy that Jesus creates, then the things in this world that gives us joy, a great vacation or a wonderful experience with people, with loved ones, if those things are not there or if it goes wrong, our joy stays there. Suffering cannot steal the invisible joy that our Lord creates. There can be literally a war around us, and we can have peace. There can be like an emotional war. There can be a spiritual attack on us. There can be a physical war, and we will be able to do what Jesus did, sleep on a boat in the middle of a storm, because he has created invisible peace in us. Love. So many of us struggle so badly to show our children love, to show our spouses adequate love. Is it not because we are trying the kind of love that the world offers us, the kind of love that we can see? Perhaps I can create this love with chocolates and flowers and candles and a nice new car and a wonderful cruise and money and good job and all these things. While Jesus says the love that will sustain is the invisible love that's found in me. Colossians 1:17, and we're closing with that one. Oh, I love this verse. He says this, Jesus says, Jesus, is before all things, and listen to this, friends, in him, all things, everything, do what? Hold together. In him, all things hold together. The other day, my wife said, it's time that now that the kids are out of the house and whatever, I want my bicycle again. So I'm into the garage, I hanged it up somewhere there, and you know what happens with a bicycle if it hangs in the air for a year and a half or whatever. The rims bend and the tires go flat and the chain drops off and whatever. You can have a fantastic bike that has all the kinds of gears that can really go super fast. This bicycle is not going anywhere. Why? The chain is not on the gears. Friends, I think sometimes we paddle as hard as we can. We sweat. We don't sleep. We put all of our energy in. We try so hard to make this bicycle of marriage go, bicycle of family go, bicycle of my studies go as a student, bicycle of, fitting in with my peers. I'm trying so hard to make this bicycle go. But the chain, my brother and sister, is not on the gears. Jesus is the chain that needs to be on the gears. He's the one that holds it together. He's the one that makes your bicycle of life go in the right direction as fast as you are actually created to go. Is the chain on the gears? Is Jesus holding it all together because he is God, creates like God, gives life like God, judges like God. He is the only truth. He is the only door. He is the only road.